Hi, my name is Greg Wilmot. I'm a counseling psychologist, and this is my 12th video in the series called Mental Health and Isolation. It's a series of short videos where I'm bringing some practical tips, tools, and ideas to be able to help you focus on and promote your own mental health during the period of the lockdown across South Africa. So today's Easter Monday. It was a very quiet weekend across the country. Certainly here in Makanda, it was quite a kind of cool and clear weekend. Um, Everyone was kind of very quiet, a lot wasn't happening. There was some beautiful music that was played from the center of town, and that kind of boomed across the CBD and into the suburbs. And there has been a positive sense of community kind of building, although people kind of aren't spending time together. When you do walk past someone, or you drive past someone, or you see someone in the shops, there's a kind of a positive kind of gesture and a greeting. And so I've certainly experienced people as being quite warm and friendly. It's a lot colder, the days are a lot shorter at the moment. Autumn is certainly kind of setting in. And across the country, a few things have changed. We've seen a slight increase in the infection rates and death rates, but certainly nothing in comparison to what's been happening in the US and the UK at the moment. There've been horrendous kind of bits of information and news coming out about, in excess of 900 people a day dying related to COVID-19. Things are relatively kind of quiet here in South Africa, but we have seen some spikes across kind of the Eastern Cape and Gauteng and the Western Cape, and that is a cause for concern. We don't know where this is going to go. I've got a very good friend who's a physio in Butterworth, and they're uncertain too of what's going to happen, and she spoke about an underlying kind of sense of panic and anxiety. So although that's kind of happening on the one side, we're a good few weeks into the lockdown now, and I wanted to talk about a little bit about kind of boredom. I find myself kind of wandering around a little bit aimlessly and having to deliberately try and find some activities and tasks to get myself involved in. Also perhaps hoping for some kind of inspiration and motivation, a burst of energy to kick in. And each day in the last few days, I find myself, well, just, what am I going to do today? I do need something to keep myself busy with. It's very easy to kind of eat sugary foods and watch more series and stay in your pajamas, but it's not as rewarding, and certainly it doesn't leave us feeling very good if it happens consecutively over time. So I want to kind of connect a little bit with kind of boredom today. Boredom in and of itself not necessarily being a bad thing. It's sometimes a good thing for kids to get bored, because they do then have to rely on kind of fantasy, play, innovation, and creativity to then kind of occupy themselves. So boredom to some extent does push us in a nice way. And I want to kind of talk a little bit about how you can use perhaps your own boredom and ideas about certain activities to give you a bit of a motivational nudge, so that you get that positive sense of confidence and meaning in a time where not a lot is kind of happening. We can't go to places to get some of that stimuli. So I also want to contrast this idea of kind of doing something with a myth around productivity. We've grown up and live in our time in the 21st century where being productive, being busy, busyitis is a very kind of common term that's thrown around, where unless I'm busy, I'm not successful, I'm not part of the 21st century, I'm not kind of moving forward. But this is also kind of a negative consequence of globalization and modernity that we're seeing. So kind of being bored and slowing down is not necessarily a bad thing, and we certainly have the luxury of time at the moment. So I want to talk a little bit about how to kind of use some of that time productively, but without kind of stretching yourself too much. So we do get confidence, we do get meaning from doing activities. We call this in some aspects of psychology behavioral activation, and it's something we do a lot with people who are experiencing depression. Is that often people who are quite significantly depressed find it hard to do things that they previously did. There's low motivation, there's low energy, there's a low sense of worth to do stuff. But in encouraging people to do some small activities and tasks around self-care, around activities, around kind of daily activities, people do then feel a little bit differently, emotionally and physically, but also they do see some kind of positive change and impact that then does create some momentum. So I want you to kind of consider some of the kind of actions and activities that you can do, maybe have been doing so far, the things that require deliberate attention, commitment, sacrifice, and challenge, that are rewarding, because in the end you do get kind of some kind of result. And this might be something like building a puzzle, doing Sudoku, a crossword, arts and crafts projects. What about kind of small building projects? I've built 2 small retaining walls in my garden. I really enjoy also kind of baking and baking bread, particularly taking the time to kind of get all the ingredients together, to read the recipe, to kind of put them together kind of carefully, sifting the flour, adding the yeast and the sugar, and then taking time to kind of mix and knead, taking time again to allow it to proof, and then being able to bake it. It's a very deliberate process and it requires quite a lot of attention and effort. But in the end, one gets this really beautiful kind of smelling and tasting and very nutritious kind of product at the end. And one is able to then literally see some fruits for your efforts. So consider also kind of around kind of organizing your day, around cleaning out cupboards, for example. Although it might be a very mundane task, if one sets oneself the task of doing this, and then being able to hand over that clothing to a charity or to other people who might need it, there's a positive sense about oneself that one has done a task. You've got a cleaner cupboard, your house is a little bit more organized, and you've been able to have a positive effect on other people. So having a deadline, having a particular goal, and having a particular intended outcome is also a very useful way to be able to kind of set a challenge for yourself, so that you've got kind of an external, some kind of other thing that you have to be accountable to. And I think that by focusing on quality, doing things to a good standard, and just the right amount of kind of pressure on yourself, one does then kind of move forward with a particular task, but we get, with that sacrifice, a kind of contingent reward. So importantly, because we've got time, take your time. Take time to plan, take time to prepare, be quite deliberate and be quite involved in the particular task that you've got. And this can be something as very simple as self-care. Taking time to have a shave, clean your nails, paint your nails, doing various activities around your house is a lovely way to be able to kind of then just stay off some of that boredom, but simultaneously at the kind of get some positive feedback at the end about your own actions, your self-worth, but also kind of feeling quite good about yourself. I kind of put on clean clothes today, got out of my kind of weekend PJs, and I feel a bit kind of more fresh and energized today. So that's it for today. If there's more things you would like me to talk about, please send me a message. Go to my Facebook page and my website, and you can welcome to contact me. I will be back again with a video in the next few days. I look forward to hearing from you. Cheers. Bye.